All right, it is time for the John Riggins Show, the 2022 version. We got some catching up to do, Riggo. We are here in our lovely BL Media studio, new digs. I'm super excited. How you feeling today?
Well, I'm feeling fine, but are you sick or whatever? Come on, these are new digs. Let's see a little energy, God. What the hell? You had more energy when you did the promo just a second ago. You said, all right, let's do a show, Riggo. And then all of a sudden, well, okay, here we are today. You know what you follow me? Yeah. That's kind of what it reminds me of. I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
Doing outstanding.
I kind of missed you, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's been too long.
I mean, we've seen each other a little bit off and on between now and then, but hell, I've come here once a week and having a lot of fun, good time. And hopefully we'll have the same thing today.
Yeah, last got together
For Thanksgiving.
Right before Thanksgiving. Coco, my lovely daughter, came in and sat with us. Dexter. What the hell's been going on since then?
There's a lot gone down. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, my official scorecard says the Birdie and Gold 7 and 10 this year.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if it's 6 and 11, 7 and 10, but I know Steve Spurrier would say not too good.
5 and 11.
5 and 11. 7 and 10, not too good. Anyway, we'll get to the football team later, and we'll get to the Super Bowl later. But I've had some interesting experiences. Of course, I went out to Kansas, went deer hunting. I finally saw him. I saw him. I did. I saw him. And he spoke to me. And he spoke to me. But not verbally, of course, but, I could tell I was in his presence.
He talked to you?
Yeah, because I'm telling you what, that son of a bitch knew what he was doing. He kept a tree between me and him the whole time. But if he'd have saw me shoot, he'd have said, hey, sucker, give me your best shot. But yeah, so we've done that, and of course the team has changed its name. We'll talk about that later. But I've got something much more immediate than that. Do you realize yesterday, Todd, I was downtown in a hospital getting a colonoscopy. Now this is an endoscopy, which is where they go down. I mean, I think they met in the middle, basically.
They went full roto-rooter?
Well, basically, could have put me on a rotisserie. I had the wires running all the way through me.
Riggo
Actually, they did. Huh?
Riggo on a spit?
Exactly. But what do you call it? There's a lot going on here, to tell you the truth, because nowadays, have you ever had one of those?
Colonoscopy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you basically know, but when's the last time?
You know what? Like 6 months ago.
Okay. Well,
clean as a whistle, boys and girls, and for those out there keeping score.
Well, okay, we're going to get into a little scatological talk, perhaps, but we'll try to stay away from it as much as we can, because I know my wife Lisa Marie will watch, and I'll get criticized. I'll get my ass chewed out when we go home. But anyway, let me ask you this: your prep, what did it consist of?
A long weekend, a long weekend of drinking all the stuff and cleaning out the system.
So in other words, 48 hours worth of prep?
48 hours.
Well, mine started a week before, 7 days. And it started with my diet. I had to completely, I think, basically quit eating fiber. You can't eat, there's no vegetables with any skin on it. You can't eat any whole grains. Basically, like, you can have dairy, and you can have, like, fish and maybe chicken, which I don't eat much of that stuff anymore. I eat the fish, but I was kind of in between places, so I didn't really get a chance to get any fish. Plus, Coco doesn't eat it, so, it's kind of like, why make it? Although occasionally I don't like making it. I'll make her a burger, and then we'll have fish. But, yeah, so you have this diet. Well, basically, for a week, I subsisted on bananas and tapioca pudding.
Whoa.
Yeah, a week's worth. So here's the way this works, Todd. I have a tendency towards constipation for some reason here, later in my life. I have no reason why. I eat a huge bowl of oatmeal and barley, all whole grain. In other words, there's all kinds of stuff in there, whole oats and some wheat germ that's all, that hasn't been refined. It's still got the...
Was that steel cut?
Yeah, but it didn't even cut. It's the berries themselves. So, it's like, and I'm grinding it up with my teeth. It's the whole, I eat all kinds of berries. I eat what I think is a lot of roughage. I eat, spinach and lettuce, and so. But still, I tend to have a tendency to lean that direction. So, this diet of bananas, which I've heard will stop you up a little bit, and then you throw in a little tapioca pudding. I'm trying to think. There must have been something else, but basically it cuts. Oh, I know what it was. And birthday cake. I could have because my lovely wife Lisa Marie had a birthday on Friday, and for about a day or so I was living off a birthday cake and vanilla ice cream, which actually was playing into my hands because I do have a sweet tooth. But eventually, then I had to pay the piper. So come Monday, the procedure was yesterday on Wednesday. So 48 hours beforehand, you got to start pulling some of this stuff back. So I hadn't. How was it? I think Sunday, I didn't defecate all day, which is not a good thing. So I woke up on Monday, and I had one of those moments, and I got to tell you, I got up and I took a look what was left down in the bowl, and I swear to God, it looked like Chongo had been in there. I ain't kidding you. Or something, like a Highland gorilla, because I don't know if anybody pays much attention to scat. I happen to, because I'm a country boy.
When you were tracking people back in Kansas, tracking bad guys.
No, when you're tracking animals, you can kind of tell. You can tell hog poop from cow poop, from horse poop, from sheep poop. We all have a different. Except me, all of a sudden, in the last week, I don't know what I turned into, or that's why I say maybe gorillas, but it looked like all packed together. It looked like a bunch of grapes, and it was about the same size as large green grapes. And I'm telling you, and then on top of all this, I had to get a fecal sample for some stuff for my cardiologist.
No problem there.
Well, except I had to get a pick to bust this stuff apart. It was almost surreal. I'm going, I did that. I didn't know whether to be proud or what.
Disgusted.
I was complete, huh?
You were proud or disgusted?
Yeah. I was right in between. There was part of me that said, whoa, I think you ought to send this to the Smithsonian.
Bad Leroy Brown.
Yeah. So anyway, I finally, get that part through. So then we have to start 2 days ago, which would be because today's Thursday. 2 days ago on Tuesday, the day before, then you start the real prep, which is when you start drinking all the solution and all that stuff. So now I'm thinking to myself that I go in there, and as you well know, when you finally get to the latter stages of that, if there was a mouse underneath there, and I let it go, he would have looked up and thought, I'll be damned. So that's what a hermaphrodite looks like, because I'm peeing out my ass, and yet, you got the junk hanging. So I'm thinking to myself, completely confusing, I'm thinking. But yeah, that's basically the way that turned out. But so I go down and I do the test, and I want, this is the last thing I'll say on this because everybody's probably vomiting by now and disgusted. But I apologize. But I'm kind of one of those guys. I've always found fascination with the anus for some reason, which leads me to believe I probably should have been a proctologist. But I also have to say I have the utmost respect for proctologists and urologists, but more so the proctologists, because think of what they're doing. I mean, and you got to figure every once in a while, like when you're drilling for oil, you're going to hit a gas pocket. And, and I realized when everybody in the room had a shield on, and it wasn't probably just because of COVID. I think that they wear those shields, which I'm saying completely, had stuff over their head. Basically, they look like they were handling either, dangerous chemicals, or, they worked in a hazmat, or they worked in a foundry, one of the two, because they were covered head to toe. So it didn't say anything, and when I finally came to, the mask was gone by then. It wasn't where I woke up and could see if anybody had it, needed a windshield wiper or anything. But yeah, that was, and I think on the floor. I think when you go into something like that that's probably your greatest fear, is that you're going to have a blowout, and somebody's going to go, well, that was a rough one. Anyway, where do you want to go next?
Speaking of a rough one in shitty times, we could go to Ashburn.
Oh, that's a good place to start.
Because it's,
By the way, I have to say this, that because of this recent name change, and I never thought about this, but I'll be the first one to tell you, 20 years ago when the current ownership first took over, they'd have a big party downtown at the something tree. It was some tree down there by the Washington Hilton Hotel. It was a restaurant. There were like 2 years in a row. I think the second year I was down there, which would have been, what would that have been, 2000? They take over in the current ownership 1999 or
Yep,
2000.
that's correct.
So it might have been 2000. And I told them that at the time, they ought to change the name of the team.
I remember.
Yeah,
I
I've
remember.
always been a big proponent of that. And I always, before all this, I always felt like that it was a term of honor. But then I realized, well, I'm not a Native American. And there's some that don't have a problem with it, there's some that are offended. So, at that point, in fact, there was a senator from Colorado who was anti. And I heard him talk a little bit, and I realized, well, you can't really relate to this. It's not fair for you to say, well, I think it's an honor, that we're looking up and basically giving you praise, or giving you props or whatever. And not everybody sees it. It's like cultures, you just can't appreciate another culture. So that's what I said way back when. Little did I realize, Todd, it's really strange. Because when I see that now, Washington Commanders, I got to tell you something. There's a line in a poem, The Dangerous Dan McGrew by Robert Service, and at the end of it, it's about a miner who was out, and he comes back, and this girl, Lou, had basically used him, took all of his money, but she was a floozy, and as soon as he was out of money, it was on to the next guy, which happened to be Dangerous Dan McGrew. But there's a line in it that says, have you ever felt like your life had been looted clean of all that it once held dear? And I got to tell you, I would have never dreamed that was the feeling I was going to end up with. I feel completely disenfranchised. And I cannot, for the life of me, this is me, John Riggins talking here, I can't understand how anybody who once played under the old franchise name, the original franchise name, could possibly want to be a part of anything with Washington Commanders. It just, like I said, I feel completely disenfranchised, and it's like all of a sudden you've entered oblivion. And for the guys, I mean, everybody's gonna make their own decision, and that's cool. It's like the guys that showed up last week. They were out there, Dexter and some of the other people, Joe Theismann and Mark Mosley and Doc Walker and all of. For you guys, you got a different point of view because it's like a different culture. But for John Riggins, and for the life of me though, I got to say this, I kind of look at them and go, "What's wrong with you? Don't you get it? You were invited to your own funeral. You got to, view the." But not everybody looks at it that way, and I think too much because I drive around, for miles and miles without listening to a radio. So I got my own
damn radio just a little bit.
I got my own. Well, I do. I listen to the radio when I take Coco to school. Okay, I do that because Coco listens to the radio, and most of the time I grant her permission to turn the radio on. But yeah, it just to me, and I got to tell you, it's the other part of it is it's just 2 years. Took you 2 years. Come up with Commanders? Whoa, okay. I'd like to get a piece of that pie.
Well, you had to have 97 focus groups. You had to make videos of
How much money did you spend on that?
The new brand and, whipping up faux excitement. That takes some time and energy. And a little bit of cash, not much.
Well, and, I don't mean to be critical. Well, I guess I do mean to be critical because it just, probably because I'm still kind of, oozing blood here from this whole switch over. But in all honesty, when you go 7 and 10, I don't know why would you would a lot of times, kind of like the way, and we get into that too, how the NFL operates, is you would slip this in on a Friday night that they're now the Washington Commanders and just start from there and let it go. Why would you draw attention to it? You've been a losing franchise for going back to the latter years of the past administration,
right?
And now completely all through the current administration. I don't, obviously you're in this business to make money, so obviously you want to market and get people to start buying jerseys and whatever else you're gonna try to market. But yeah, I don't quite follow the timeline there. Because I'd think I'd have a tendency to be more meek and mild. Look, I know I stink, okay? So I'm just going to go off over here and change my clothes and, okay, and I'll be back. I wouldn't be going, hey, everybody, look at me. Hey, check this out. Guess what? We're changing our name. It just doesn't work for me for whatever reason.
Well, the reality is, John, this was a marquee franchise. This franchise and the blood, sweat, equity that
a lot
you
of
and your
guys
teammates and built this brand. And what it's deteriorated into, nobody in their wildest dreams, especially growing up here, could ever imagine that the owner of this franchise is a pariah in this town. And it's fallen that far pretty sure they finished last in attendance out of 32 teams.
I
TV
think that's
ratings, it's probably the worst ever. This was a top 5 franchise in the league. And so now all you got is marketing, right? Every year, what do they sell? They sell, they sell hope. They sell hope. So now you were forced to change the name of this team. This wasn't some noble.
Well, that's where I'm caught here because you get into a situation where it's a legitimate sacrifice, and I don't know. Looking back, in other words, it's your livelihood really. Because I don't know, John Riggins, he played for the. Who did he play for? Can't say that, can you? I don't know.
Right,
and now it's like. Well, it wasn't a command. You can't.
And we're going to take care of this because there should not be any Washington Commanders John Riggins jerseys.
Even though there are.
Yeah, well, we're going to take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's almost like that makes me feel filthy.
Yeah.
That's. I can't relate to that either because I'll just get in trouble if I said it. But I mean, no. Well, because it's something completely off and it's not even close to that, so I don't want to say it. But yeah, I feel dirty. I don't want anything to do with it. It's just, for now anyway, maybe I'll change. Maybe I need a little more time. I don't know. But it just doesn't feel right to me. And it does feel like there's a little bit of a threat to, because I make money off of doing autographs and memorabilia and all that stuff. I don't know, moving forward, is there going to be any old memorabilia? Because but I guess if they put it in front of me, I don't know, I'm going to have to make a conscious decision here to sign the new stuff because people will probably come with, although they really can't because there won't be any photographs or anything like that of me in a Washington Commanders uniform. Now, as I say all this, keep in mind, I'm a hose bag, and if somebody
Cash Wilson,
and if somebody comes to me and says, "Well, what if we give you $1 million? No, $1 billion."
Let's start a mill and go up.
I might go, you know
I'll
what?
put on that commander's hat.
Let me think about this. Yeah, okay, we can do that. So, I don't know. I as usual, I got my issues that I'm trying.
Commander's conundrum.
Yeah, I do. So I'm working through everything. But yeah, good luck to everybody that's a part of that. I mean, there's nothing that, as they say, well, maybe it is some skin off my nose. I'm not sure yet. We'll find out as time goes on. But I have to say that term is just completely foreign to me. It doesn't sound real, does it? Washington Commanders, and you think of the Washington football team. It doesn't. Washington football team actually is closer. Certainly burgundy and gold. I mean and that's I guess what they'll always be for me because that just doesn't work. When you see it on in a newspaper, the Washington Commanders announced yesterday. It's like, yeah, really, who is that? Who is the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, well,
it doesn't feel natural yet. But maybe we just need time.
No question.
But I'm hardly the only one. I think there was a fellow in one of the columnists for the Wall Street Journal was busted on that whole idea yesterday, saying that basically same thing. Look, 2 years to come up with this. I mean, it's kind of what is it? The Commanders of what's the tie here? I don't know.
Right.
It's like they could have been the Washington lobbyists. That might have made more sense because that kind of goes along with who they are at this point in time. But we'll see.
Lots of moving parts and never a dull moment with this franchise, unfortunately. And
well, and speaking of that, then you had the congressional hearings last week, and that's pretty interesting. And I think you have to look at this. You have to understand, and this is truly complicated. I don't think any of us have a real appreciation for how much football has seeped in to the zeitgeist. And been a major, it is basically for most Americans. I think I read in the same thing. 50% of liberals and 52% of conservatives and 50%, basically half the country approves of likes football. That's what 150 million people for crying out loud. And you can't really. So what you have here is a situation where. Basically, might makes right, and the golden rule, as Edward Williams once said, "Man with the gold makes the rules." I don't know where you're ever going to, everything is all sleight of hand. It's an entertainment business. You got to understand that from the very beginning, and I think it's all basically the illusions that you present, because really, when it's all said and done, the thing that with some of the testimony that was down there on Congress, most people are outraged by that. But will anything be done? I will be surprised. It happened last July. In other words, the more it changes, the more it stays the same. It happened last July when the report came out, but it wasn't a report. It was basically Roger Goodell telling the world that, well, we've looked into this, and it was just really pretty unprofessional out there, and, there's some bad stuff that happened. But, okay. Any more questions?
I gave Miss Wilkinson an A for her oral presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. You passed the test. So, you start with that, and guess what? There was a lot of outrage. No written report, and all the papers were, the people at ESPN was all up in arms. There's no. Well, what happened? Well, the football season was about ready to begin. That report was already done 2 months before that. But you drop at the beginning of the football season with, whatever. What'd you say? I can't remember. Okay, now they got that new rookie out there. It's like.
Don't forget the kickoff rule changes we made this year.
Exactly. So, how do you expect this to really change? Congress, if they're really going to dig in and go after people, and if they're going to start talking about the antitrust stuff,
hit them in the wallet.
Well, I'll tell you what now, people are going to, you'll get some attention from the NFL when you start talking antitrust.
Oh, yeah.
Which I actually think is probably illegal anyway, in some ways, at least when it comes to sports, but that's another story. By the way, remember I sat out a whole season thinking I was a lawyer against Edward Bett Williams.
I grad school for econ back then.
I think right now I could be a proctologist based on what I learned yesterday. But I'm a quick study. What can I tell you? Not everybody is. But yeah, if you look back at this whole situation, as I said, I wouldn't get my hopes up that anything's going to change anytime soon. And I'm sure everything will eventually. Like I said, the more it changes, the more it stays the same. You'll just get more of the same. So I don't have a lot of faith in the powers that be. Now, a kicker on this one is just laughable, absolutely laughable, which makes you wonder who's really in charge. Could it be who we obviously think it is, or is there somebody else? Is there a wizard in the closet somewhere? But I just read yesterday, and I think you've probably seen this, that all of a sudden, now based on this new testimony that was down in Congress, that the Washington football team is going to investigate.
Commanders are.
Shut up. We ain't listen to that. I don't want you using that word either.
Don't use the C word?
That'd be like calling me a honky or a cracker. That's fighting words there, son.
You're the funky honky.
I'm the funky honky or the funky hunky. Either way you want to go with that. Because I am Czech and they call them bow hunks. Get it? Come on. But, Todd, is that the stupidest? It's stupid. All of a sudden now you're going to hire a private independent investigator, investigate these new allegations that you more than likely know all about anyway. What? And if that was the case, you're going to investigate this, then why don't you release the original investigation? Right. It's absurd that people that are out there at Ashburn, and yet they may be right, the public is, the public, gullible and or stupid that you will buy into this. Oh, you're going to do an investigation. Well, all right, now we're getting down to now we're going to find out some stuff. Good for you. What? You're going to hire somebody to tell them to say what you want them to say, and say, well, we looked at this and basically there's no evidence here that we would feel that's truthful. This was all lies and blah blah blah. That, to me, just hit me between the eyes yesterday. Another investigation to do what? We're
going to investigate ourselves. So the criminals or potential criminals, we're going to...
That's it. That's exactly right.
And isn't
it's the fox in the hen house.
Right. And the other thing we learned last week, which blew everybody away, is the notion that this report that Beth Wilkinson and her team did, that Dan Snyder has the ability... He has to sign off and say, yeah, we'll release it. That he actually had the power with the commissioner, and they both say, again, the criminal is investigating himself, and, oh, yeah, this happened or this didn't happen, but I'm in charge of it.
Right, and I'll figure out my own punishment. You've been found guilty, basically, in the court, the court of public opinion. Well, okay, fine, but then you got to know that I am the perp, and I'll determine what my punishment is to be. So
I've been a bad boy.
Yeah, I've been bad. I'll try not to do it again. Can we move on now?
and then a week later, You say, oh, we're going to investigate ourselves again. Beth, Ms. Wilkinson.
Yeah, that's the part that's kind of disturbing, really.
And so then the league came out yesterday.
And said they're taking it over.
And it's fascinating because I think you've got, a little parrying going on here between the league and Dan. And because they were going to come out and said, we're going to investigate this. And I think the team came out and said, oh, yeah, well, we're going to beat you to the punch. We're going to announce our own investigation first.
That'd be enough to get me a little jerked off.
Well, yes.
Torqued
Absolutely.
Up. If they're trying to, undercut you and get, but then again, is there any reason? Look, I don't want to take a shot at corporations in general, but let's face it, they're completely impersonal. They're stuff that allow people to hide behind the whole corporate front and all that stuff to a great degree because it's all the NFL, it's the NFL and or whatever that they decided they're going to look. An NFL spokesman said this, there's complete really pretty much anonymity among this whole thing because you can hide behind the corporate shield to a certain extent. And, so to me, I'm going, well, really, where's it going to go? They're in business to make money. And the truth of the matter is, I honestly think that the public wouldn't care if they had, if they had a felon, and sometimes they have had that, but I mean, a known felon on the team. And maybe a violent felon. I have no idea. I don't know that the public, because they're the only way there will ever be any change is it's you, John Q. Public. You have to go.
Right.
You have to turn your back, and I honestly don't think you can. So I don't think you're going to see any change. And what we go through is one machination after another, one facade after another, one creating some kind of a false, false setting or to confuse, obfuscate, whatever you want to call it. And then basically everybody gets tired of it and it just gets swept under the rug and we move on. So yeah. I don't know. It's dispiriting to know that there was some major changes a year before when it came to race. And if you think about it, the discrimination against women has gone on since probably we were in caves, I'm guessing. And that's the oldest discrimination there is. And are we really doing anything about that? Not so much. Here's a great time to do something, but everybody's hiding behind these agreements and all these investigations that nobody knows what happened. But it's a corporation. Corporations are there to make money, and that's what this is all about ultimately. And honestly, I wonder why the NFL even bothers to feign interest in their public image, because guess what? Come hell or high water, on Sunday afternoon, somebody's going to be in, a lot of people's going to be in that stands. As you said, already this year or last year, I guess, was the highest rated TV shows in the entire nation was NFL football, wasn't it?
And continued even more so now. And with the there's going to be over 100 million of us on Sunday.
I don't know if I'm watching. It
dominates the culture, John. It's that pervasive and it's that big
that's what I'm saying.
now.
It's a drug.
And 100%. And it's the only type of programming that is guaranteed. That's why you want to put more games on. Remember, we had a couple of Monday games, we had a couple of Tuesday games because of COVID, and people were eating it up because I got something to watch on TV. And the gambling aspect that is taking and driving the revenue. So they're going to do 17 to 18 billion in revenue this year, but it's projected.
They've doubled in 10 years.
Yes.
I think 10 years ago it was about 9 or 10 billion.
It's going to 25 billion in the next 3 to 4 years with gambling and all the new TV deals. And these deals, now that you got Amazon, Facebook, everybody wants a piece of the action. It's gold, and it is a gold rush. There's only 32 of these franchises. So we are addicted. Here's one for you.
Well, then, I think that's what I just said, and I'm completely believe that. That's why I'm thinking to myself, who cares what these guys do? You know, there's the moral compass completely. It goes. It's like being at the North Pole. Like you're already there. The needle ain't pointing. It might point down, but it ain't gonna. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to the North Pole. I've been close, but never been to the North Pole. I don't know. I could be talking out my backside, which is still a little sore, by the way. But getting back to what I'm saying is that, I mean, I just don't. I only see that the only way is for the public, and it just isn't going to happen. It's all wishful thinking that somehow the league will be held accountable. Because if you are the league, you kind of go, you take some bad press, right? You had Deflategate, whatever that was, and that was a 50-50 deal. Some people felt like Brady got a raw deal. Some people feel like Brady's a cheater. It's like you got two ways to go on that. But ultimately, it always comes out. You just keep stuffing money in that sack. Yeah, well, we're going to do better. Yeah, we know we got problems. And you just keep stuffing money in that sack. It's almost like just accept it. Don't expect anything out of this league. Don't expect anything out of the local franchise. Don't expect anything. Just lower your expectations. Hey, if they win a bunch of games getting a Super Bowl, then yeah, because you're a fan and you're addicted. Or, on the other hand, if you do have a moral compass, you might think about, I got something better to do on Sunday.
Which is what
I don't know.
What these hot
just throwing some ideas out there because I'll be behind my TV set. You bet. Maybe I don't know. I'm not even sure I'm going to watch the game on Sunday. Who cares? Although I got to admit, and I think it's a good time to transition. We beat this horse about to death, and it was already dead to begin with. Joe Burrow is a particular fascination to me.
Stud.
What? Unbelievable what that guy's done.
Stud.
He only played a half a year last year.
Yeah, the Redskins,
Washington
football Commanders, whoever they were, they knocked him out. They hit him low, and
it's to me.
What they did to his knee, that was serious. He blew everything out.
Exactly, and yet he's come back at a level you can't appreciate. And yet, it was the first playoff game, I think, and I can't remember who they played. Was it Tennessee? It must have been Tennessee, maybe.
Yeah,
that would have been right because you got to play 3, don't you? Did they beat? He got hit.
Seed.
He got sacked 10 times in that first game. And guess what? He just kept chucking. He stood in there and kept throwing. Now I don't know. I'll admit I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I will say this: if that had been Tom Brady, I don't see that
Tommy
happening.
Doesn't like to get hit.
His uniform gets dirty. It's almost like
come on, boy.
But he's so good that his uniform doesn't get dirty. But I tell you, it might have gotten dirty if he'd have been playing behind that Cincinnati Bengal line. I don't know. But then again, maybe Burrow's got a lot to lose, so he can actually surpass Tom Brady. He wins this one his second year? I don't know. It's wide open. But, yeah, I'm just fascinated with him. So there's a part of me that says, well, you really ought to watch this kid play another game because he is fascinating to watch. And then, again, you got, the L.A. Rams who was in it, 4 years ago? Yeah. And Sean McVay and what he's done out there, and here's classic NFL, classic wherever you are, and you're in a job and you don't like it, or you feel like you're getting passed over, you're not getting put in the best position to actually show the company what you can do. Take a lesson from this, because keep doing what you do, and keep your head down and just do your job, because maybe, just maybe, no guarantees here, it might work out. Because the kid that played in Detroit last year from Georgia, what's his name? Stafford. Matt Stafford?
Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford. Think about this. That poor bastard played for the Detroit Lions for 10 years? 12 years? 12 years. Was pummeled constantly. And you would think this guy probably had Joe Burrow talent.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell about records. They're bullshit, folks. They're bullshit. Because it's time and place and coach and politics, just like it is in your own job. So records, particularly in a team sport. Now, you're going to talk about the 100 meters, in the Olympics. Now, that's a different story. Now we're talking a different story. The more people you get involved, the less I think, factual the records really are, because there's too many people out. Think about a quarterback.
Variables.
Well, quarterback just throws the ball. Somebody's got to catch the ball. It's a two-way deal.
Somebody's got a block to give them the time.
Somebody's got a block to give them the time. Or if you're Tom Brady, you don't need blockers. I don't know.
If you're Tommy, terrific.
If you're Tom, terrific. And, yeah. So my point here is, if I have one, is Matt Stafford, God bless him. And I'm happy for him that he finally got a chance to play for a team where he could show what he's all about. And of course, I think their defense is pretty vicious too. So maybe I'm
pretty stout.
Maybe I'm overplaying my hands. Cincinnati once again.
No, you're
but
not.
but I mean, and
Matthew Stafford's earnest, and I think most people are really rooting for him. I think most people.
Both quarterbacks are very likable.
Yes.
For that very reason. What's interesting now, because I mentioned Brady's name a couple of times. He made something that impressed me. I think he said it this last week or so. And I went, you know what? That guy's got some stuff going on. He said if it wasn't for the tuck rule, we've never made a herd of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Because he would have ended up in a Matt Stafford. Maybe they would have kept him the next year. But Drew Bledsoe would have continued to be the quarterback. So it's like, isn't that strange how the bounce the ball? Look, I'm a victim of that. I mean, I'm John Riggins. Everybody knows that. I've been John Riggins for about 40 years. When I was born, I wasn't John Riggins. I was just John Riggins. But, I became just like Tom Terrific. But, hey, if that guy tackles me
Tom McNeil
out in Pasadena,
Tom McNeil,
it would have been John Riggins. Oh, that son of a bitch.
Man, the guy
he got stuffed on 4th and 1. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked out so well for me. So I got to keep that in mind. Who do you like?
I think the Rams are going to win. I am rooting for Cincinnati. I think it's a great story. I think, like with the teams you guys play, and you see this on both teams, and usually at this time of the year, you can tell a team where the teammates actually get along and like each other and are tight. And it's not a bunch of independent free agents out there. I really feel good.
You can win that way too, though.
Yeah.
The old Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
They would usually have a couple fist fights a night in the clubhouse, and then go out there and kick everybody's ass.
Yeah, there was that. The line is the L.A. Rams -4.
Really?
-4.
So nobody's really buying
And
into it.
Cincinnati-
And the Bengals are walking around going, why not us?
Now
Why not us?
right.
And they're saying, we don't feel like underdogs.
And they're not getting any respect. I mean, nobody knows. You can't name a play on their defense. Nobody's.
And this is the other thing. When I first went to the Jets, I swear, when we used to get off the plane, I'll never forget, we got off the plane in Kansas City in an exhibition game my rookie year. And I'm telling you, when we got off that plane, it looked like the bar scene from Star Wars. We had guys that did not look at all like football players, but a lot of them had 3 years ago beaten the Baltimore. A lot of those guys on that team had just beaten the Baltimore Colts in the greatest upset ever in the Super Bowl. But they did not look that, and that's exactly, to me, the way the Cincinnati Bengal defense looks. They got guys that got their bellies hanging out.
They got one dude, he's like pear-shaped,
and yet guys kick ass. Now there, you bring up a good point, and I never thought about it. I guess maybe, I always kind of pull for the underdog, really. But in this case, both of them were kind of underdogs, maybe going into the season. You had the Chiefs and actually in the NFC, I guess the Rams could have been anybody's favorite.
Yeah,
we had Tampa Bay Bucks.
and Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. But when you look at this game, you kind of look at the fact that the Rams ultimately, probably, but we'll find out, have a much stouter defense. And I think what it'll get down to is that Burrow may not be able to overcome the pass rush he's going to get. And if he's going to get, that he's going to keep getting pummeled. So far, he keeps going, but, eventually you keep getting hit, you're going to get injured, and then what? So I don't know. And that's probably the book is it's with the Rams defense.
Yeah.
Because the Rams offense isn't any great shakes, I don't think. And then like you said, Bengals defense, now they are Rodney Dangerfield. They get no respect whatsoever. The Bengals basically are Rodney Dangerfield. But there's something about me, and years ago when New England won that first Super Bowl against the greatest show on turf, that was in New Orleans, I believe, I felt like New England would win that game. And that's what I'm wondering here, because the Bengals are rabid. You're talking about they're such an underdog, and they kind of play like an NCAA college team.
Let her rip.
They're flying all around the football. Man, that's a great sign. And that's what always impressed me about that original New England team was I'm thinking, good God, they cover punts like it's their last punt they'll ever cover. And after somebody gets down, they knock people down. There's a swarm of tacklers there. That's what gives me pause here. And the one kid, the running back, can't think of his name for the Rams, he's had a little fumbleitis here, so you never know about him. There's two things you go. He fumbles early. I mean, the guy will be in his head for the rest of the game, and he's done. So there's a lot of things to play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to play.
And the thing
here.
is, we don't know much about Cincinnati because they came out of nowhere for the most part. I mean, it's kind of one
Todd,
of those things.
2 and 14,
Yeah.
4 and 12.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the record was this year, but Super Bowl. You go from 2 seasons, from 2 and 14, or 2 and 14 to 4 and 12 to Super Bowl.
Remarkable.
Talk about making up some
But
time.
we don't know much about it because they weren't on national TV very often. We really don't. The Rams, they were expected to contend.
They're one of those franchises.
So, and both of these are number 4 seeds. And number 4 seeds, the line is 4. Cincinnati is actually the home team. As they
well, that goes year to year.
Exactly. So the Rams actually have to switch locker rooms and go to the visitors' locker
Go
room.
figure that one. That's interesting. You know, that's another thing. I wonder, do the Rams even play there? Do they practice there? I'm guessing no.
That's a great question.
They probably practice at their own facility. But on game day, the Rams will have to go to the visitors' locker room. And that's kind of, that almost is like prophetic to me, because we were the home team out in Pasadena. I mean, we got to Washington. We practiced at the Rams practice field when we went out there.
Where was it? Was it Anaheim or where was it?
I think that's right. Because that's where they were playing. So it must have been someplace around Anaheim. I can't remember for sure. It's been 50 years ago. No, not quite.
And
50,
a little gambling tip for those out there: the Cincinnati Bengals are 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 games, and that's going through the playoffs. So, just a little.
Okay, you are one of those guys, and you probably are going to do something just nominal here. What?
Very nominal.
Yeah, because you got your ass whipped here a while back. So what are you thinking? You going to take the Bengals and the points?
I think I am. May do a little teaser
I
bet.
think I'll go ahead and give my pick. I think it's going to be the Bengals, but I don't think it's just a cover. I think it's the Bengals for the win.
I like it.
Although
I'd be happy with
the Rams are playing at home, right? But that doesn't mean anything.
nothing in the Super Bowl because it's corporate marketing.
Exactly. I was going to say it don't mean there's going to be a Ram fan.
What was amazing, John? Remember they played San Francisco 49ers there 2 times, and
49ers beat them.
And the 49ers dominated the stadium.
Really?
It was embarrassing. It was truly embarrassing.
That's L.A. though.
Yeah.
That's L.A.
And
actually, that game's taking place during my nap time. I mean, that's kind of the L.A. I mean, this was going on 20 years ago before the franchise ever left. It was the same thing. L.A. is a different town when it comes to their football fans.
Yeah.
If they get a better offer. I think I'm going to go to the beach this weekend.
I got a movie. There's a new movie opening up.
Yes, exactly. They have a lot of options.
Well, let's take one little trip down memory lane here,
Okay.
John.
I think you should address me as El Riggo. This is me actually right about to become El Riggo.
John Riggins.
Yeah, this is the moment I became John Riggins. This is great. You've broken it down.
I've learned.
You've broken it down.
I've learned.
Exactly.
Now
I was Grasshopper, and now I become John Riggins.
Now, the other fascinating thing was what's going on in Ashburn. Was this Super Bowl 17 or was this 18? Because they've got the wrong year.
Oh, yeah.
In the new logo, in which
I think they've righted it already, though. But maybe on some of the stuff they printed.
No, they said, the new guy out there is like, well, if some people would like to interpret it that way, we think in a reproduction of new logos, then maybe we'll consider that. You were the first ones who butchered. It's the season you played in, not the year you played the game, sports fans.
Well, look at Todd. If we're going to be sitting here talking about some of the stupid stuff they do out there, we are going to be here all day.
It's more time, sports fans. All right, so Pasadena. Mm-hmm. That's the moment. 39 years old. Next year will be the 40th year reunion.
Yes, it would.
The 40th anniversary, right?
Yeah, next January, a year from now, will be. What was it, January 21st? Is that when or 31st, 21st? I can't remember.
When you guys played?
Yeah, the date that we played, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was earlier than it is now.
Yeah, way earlier. But yeah, that's the game. I'm trying to think that if you can see. I'm going to point out Don Shula, some of the late Don Shula's there someplace, because this looks like, although the angle could be a little bit different here than it is in that poster. But I don't think it is. That looks almost like exactly to that.
Okay. And we're going to carry on to the next one. All right. Name Is that Huff?
Who?
Who? Kenny Huff? No, who is that?
That's Gary Petz. He played with the Jets. He came in when I was about to tail end of my jet, which was 5 years. Gary came in. He's an offensive lineman. He played with the Jets, and then Washington picked him up the very year that we went to the Super Bowl. He ain't too happy. This is Tom Owen, who recently passed away, I might add. Sorry to hear that. Huh?
Did he go to Princeton?
No, Tom went to Wichita State.
Okay.
And Bill Parcells was the coach there. And then from that year, he played here. And then I think he went to the Giants the next year. Parcells brought him up there. I can't tell.
Is that Virgil Say?
I think that's Virgil and that's Charlie, isn't it?
Yeah, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, I think that's who it is.
And that's right after the run, right?
It must be. Yeah. So Tom and I were very good friends, only for that 1 year. But I guess maybe because we bonded over the fact we were both from Kansas.
Very nice. Next up, sports. Oh,
no, we all knew that.
Dexter just felt the need to make an appearance on the show. Wrong Super Bowl. We'll get into that one next time. Dex, good seeing you, my man.
Yeah.
And we'll have Dex on.
I know nothing about that game. Mr. Cook, Jack Kent Cook, and that is the kid from Joe Gibbs, obviously, and that's yours truly. And that's when it's funny too because the night of the championship game, although I did say it on here. The night of the championship game, when we beat Dallas, I was walking Ron Saul, the late Ron Saul. We were after the game, and I looked at Ronnie and I said, Ron Saul, that is. I said, Ron may be the president, but tonight I'm the king. So I think I said the same thing. But what's weird is Ron Saul, brother, played for the Rams, Rich. Okay. And he was good friends with Merlin Olsen. Merlin Olsen was doing the game. So Merlin sat down with Ron, and Ron probably told him, he says, well, if they win, Riggo, Ron may be the president, because Merlin Olsen said the very same thing during the broadcast, and I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
I remember somebody saying that to me.
You said that,
somebody like Phil Mushnick would have said, gee, that's interesting. Riggins must have been listening to the game while he was playing. Because Merlin Olsen said the same thing earlier in the game.
Maybe Mike Adamley, who was interviewing you when you said, and he was an old teammate of yours, wasn't he?
Yep, with the Jets again.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Super Bowl.
Always look. Joe Gibbs looks younger than me.
He does.
Isn't that weird?
He really does.
And I don't know how Joe. He'd have been in his early 40s, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he was in his 30s.
Joe just turned 80,
81.
81.
Yeah, he just turned 80 last year, so he'll probably be 81 this year.
Well, the memories, John. The memories for generations, and El Riggo, John Riggins, the legend was born.
And it lives today. Riggo out.